r/rules horror. Posted by you/inevitable_cookie_74. Rules for traveling within the Lucaston stairway. So you're just as stupid as the rest of them, huh? You want to go missing just like the others, right? You want to gamble with fate, and travel the cursed Lucaston stairway, that's been rumored to be endless and inescapable? You really think you're different than the other fools? You really think I won't get lost and he re? Do you really think you're going to make it out? Do you? Alright moron, I guess I could help you out. Here, take this list of rules I made. It'll help you with some of the hazards in the Lucaston stairway, but not all hazards. Read the list carefully, and follow them down to its finest detail, understand? 1. Always have a light source. If it's hard to navigate with a light, imagine how much harder it is to navigate without a light. The stairway gets darker and darker the higher you go, so having a light source would be wise. 2. I wouldn't recommend leaving any markers or trails of breadcrumbs in the stairway. The Lucaston stairway is against space and time. The stairway moves, if that makes sense, parts of itself around, so it's never consistent. The exit is always in the same place, until some point, but the twist and turns to get to the exit always changes. 3. Ignore outlines that resemble the human body. Most people who enter the stairway never exit the stairway, and their bodies usually disappear. We don't know how though. 4. Feel free to loot any bags/backpacks you find whilst exploring. The owners won't be needing them. 5. If you hear music at any time, do not walk down the stairway. Instead, ignore the music and keep moving forward. Once the music stops, you are safe. 6. If you see a fresh corpse that appears to be from the early 2000s, walk past him quickly and do not look into his eyes. If the corpse starts talking, run. Do not stop running until you hear a loud ding. 7. If you see 2 people dressed as police officers talking on the stairway, ask them for the day and time. Time doesn't pass how you expect it to within the stairway, so it's always good to know how long it's been since you entered. You will see these officers more than once, so don't worry about losing them. 8. If you hear a faint buzz, stop walking and repeat to yourself, I am sane 5 times. If the buzz intensifies, and you start seeing corpses, close your eyes and repeat I am sane and this isn't real until you no longer hear the buzz. 9. When you reach a very decomposed corpse that looks to be from the 1800s, that is the corpse of Mr. Lucaston himself, and it is highly recommended you do not cross that point. I know nothing about the hazards beyond Mr. Lucaston's body. I cannot help you if you go beyond that point. It's been said that if you cross the corpse of Mr. Lucaston himself, you will not be able to turn back. That point in the stairway is the part where space completely falls apart. You'll be more lost than ever, and never be able to find your way back from there. You'll die alone and lost. If you ask why no one has returned from the Lucaston stairway, it is because of Rule 9. Everyone wants to take a crazy dare and do the unspeakable. Most people thought that this rule and the story behind it was just some fairy tale I made up to scare the guests. I promise you that is false. Please don't end up like the others, lost in an inescapable maze. So, you read the rules? And you're going to follow them, right? If you have trouble memorizing the rules, bring the list with you. I do have copies. You don't want to take it with you? Oh, okay. I'm not going to force you, just at least remember the last rule. Please. Okay. Go ahead, don't get lost and please, come out alive. r/limitless horror. Posted by you/inevitable_cookie_74. The case of looming death. It was a dark and rainy night. Duke Edward Whitfield was being escorted to his bedroom by his only trusted butler, Alexander. The other servants of the Duke fled in terror, thinking the great Duke was stricken by the Black Plague. The Duke was alone, with his last butler on the brink of abandoning him. Yes, the Duke was indeed feeling terribly ill. He was pale, thin, and he felt a very intense pain in his neck. "Your Grace, are you sure you don't want me to get the doctor?" Alexander said with much concern in his voice. "You've been like this for days." "No, it's probably a common cold." Duke Edwards responded groggily, entering his bedroom. "It'll be gone by morning." And with that, the Duke closed the door on Alexander. He lay in his bed, rubbing his neck. "It'll be gone by morning, right?" The next morning, Duke Edward awoken in his bed surrounded by flies. His body being darker than before, it was as black as charcoal. He tried to stand, only to feel pain all over his body. Each step he took caused black ooze to leak from the soles of his feet. As if his body was rotting though he was still alive. "What kind of disease have I been stricken with? Is this leprosy?" He struggled to dress himself, he struggled to get downstairs to his kitchen where he struggled to eat his meal that was prepared by Alexander. Alexander took notice of the Duke's behavior. "Your Grace, I can't witness you like this. I'm getting the doctor right away." Alexander turns to walk away, only to be grabbed by Duke Edward. "No. I'm fine." No one knows why Duke Edward didn't want the help of the good doctor. Was it to not appear helpless and frail? When Duke Edward touched the arm of Alexander, in quick succession, Alexander's face turned white, as if he had all the blood sucked out of his body, then he collapsed, dead on the floor. Duke Edwards falls out of his chair and grabs his loyal friend in his arms, sobbing not only because he lost his most loyal friend, but because he was now alone in his mansion, his condition growing worse and worse, causing him to grow weaker and weaker. Duke Edward makes his way back into his bedroom, where he stays for many days. The days turn to weeks, and the weeks turn to months. The beautiful garden outside the mansion becomes a lush green forest, no one ever knowing about the fate that befell Duke Edward and his butler. No one knew that the Duke was still alive, however, his entire body was no longer human. His flesh has been replaced by wood and stone, his mansion turned into one massive clock tower that was noticeable over the lovely green forest, though no one dared to venture into that tower. Edward's head, because he was only a head now, his body being replaced by black tentacles that held his head in the air, was falling apart so quickly, it had to be held together by sentient hands made of porcelain. Any living thing that entered within the tower rotted, and anything that got close enough to touch Duke Edward disintegrated into a bloody heap. Edward himself was unrecognizable. He seemed to have lost all signs of humanity. He no longer spoke words, he just made groaning sounds. He moved slowly throughout his decaying home and ate the rotting corpses of the animals that were unlucky enough to enter his home. What makes this story more tragic than that, is the fact that no one ever figured out this ailment the good Duke was afflicted with. It remained a mystery, and it still remains a mystery to this day. When this legend was first heard, the unknown disease was dubbed looming death due to the fact that merely looming in the presence of the afflicted one, killed you. To this day, people still try to locate the mansion of Duke Edward, so they can see for themselves the horrors within. However, this expedition is strongly not recommended for risk of death.